The CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now your host, Calvin Alexander.
Hey Cowboy fans, today's episode is brought to you by Oakley Burklow, your go-to independent insurance agent and proud OSU alum. Oakley helps with home, auto, life, and business insurance, working with multiple top-rated insurance companies to find you the right coverage at the right price. Licensed in Oklahoma and Arkansas. Call 918-280-9068 or email oakley.burklow@connectmyinsurance.com. Personal service, honest advice, and a fellow poke helping you protect what matters most.
Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I am your host, Calvin Glen Alexander. And on tonight's episode of the podcast, I am joined by my fellow co-host here, Trey Florence, as we go through the Oklahoma State end of the year football awards season. Hoping to do this once a year, every year, and not talk about a 1-11 season after this season ever again. Trey, how you doing?
Great. Hopefully the awards get better over the years, not where we're kind of scrapping the barrel, just trying to figure out which offensive player was good again.
Yeah, there will almost always be like an MVP, an offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, breakout player of the year, etc. But like unsung hero, probably always worthy, but also having a heart of the year award, maybe not always needed. This year, definitely much so, Trey.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, the MVP this year. I want to ask you their leadership, their consistency, their impact on the team. I would say in years upcoming in the future, this will expand. But for this year, Trey, who is your winner? I'll give my winner of each award, and then we will both talk about it a little more to decide the actual winner between both of us.
That works for me. So mine, I'm going to give it to Gavin Freeman. He led the team on all the receptions. He did absolutely phenomenal. He had an average of 9.1 catches. Let me actually hit play so that we can actually see some of those lovely highlights. He was one of the most uplifting points of the season for me. He was literally trying to catch everything in the world, and I know that was hard in some cases, but, I feel like he definitely deserved it considering like his height, his stature, and everything like that. He led the team. And, he's 5'8", which is not typically like the highest or tallest, wide receiver out there. But man, did he play great. He really changed the performance for, at least on our offense. It felt like he actually gave us a chance,
I do. I feel like he is definitely there, although we might be seeing him a little later on here and another award for myself. Because Gavin was such a great player overall for the team. He was a bright spot. He transfers from OU to Oklahoma State. Last year, he sees a little bit of playing time. And this year, it's like, oh, this is going to be the guy for Oklahoma State. And then, of course, Hosseini gets injured. 3 series into the season. And we're looking at what we're looking at. So I think Gavin's a worthy guy here. I will say I have a little bit different of a guy to share, I would say. And that's mainly here because at the end of the day, Sam Jackson the fifth. I mean, he to me is why player of the year.
Cowboys 1 for 3 on third downs. Jackson to throw. Steps up in the pocket and Jackson to the electric. Jackson touchdown.
So if you're listening to the podcast and not watching it just on YouTube here, Sam Jackson scrambles around, runs in for a touchdown against Baylor. It was one of the better games he had in the season. But why I'm really talking about him more is because he did it all for Oklahoma State. That to me is the reason why he is the MVP. He of course, at one point plays quarterback, he plays wide receiver, then he plays quarterback. And he still is listed wide receiver to end out the season for Oklahoma State in the college ball reference. MVP wise, it's tough to say, hey, a starting quarterback for a team for Oklahoma State is the MVP whenever you go 1-11. It's hard to do that. I understand completely. But he was a great player. Like he willed it all. He led us to some close outcomes. He helped down the stretch here, catch a couple balls. Now, he weirdly has like one reception to end at UCF. But to me, this is a guy who's the MVP because in some games he was 3 or 4 passing, like against Baylor. But he's running around, keeping us in the game where we're not truly getting blown out. And then in other games, he's not seeing the ball at all. I can't imagine that consistency and inconsistency really would be good at all for a guy to play. But he was up for whatever. Against the Cincinnati game, yeah, we lost 17-49. Not great. Baylor, 27-45. Again, not great. But like, you know, against Tulsa, he was 100% passing. He had 1 pass, but he was just thrown in there. It was, hey, this is Doug Meacham's show at this point after Gundy gets fired. What can you do with it? Here are the quarterback reigns after we have not 1, but 2 quarterbacks go down. After Zane goes down, this truly was Sam Jackson's offense. And what can we do? And how can we do the pitchy woo woo and figure it all out and everything? And then at the end of the day, yeah, he's the MVP. He's doing great. It's not the best season I've ever seen from a quarterback. It's probably actually the worst season I've ever seen an Oklahoma State quarterback have. And he didn't start quarterback for every single game. And that's not great overall. But man, he's the most valuable player to me because he was just valuable to the team in ways that go beyond the field. We didn't see the team quit truly in any one of these games. And heck, even against Iowa State, we lost by 7. He didn't play a snap in the game. Like, that's just such a weird thing. His senior season, ends his eligibility out, transfers through 4 different programs altogether. I mean, you're talking about a guy who played for Auburn, TCU, Cal, and Oklahoma State. Did he complete the ACC, Big 12, and SEC gauntlet? Yes. I would only rather him get a chance to play for a Big 10 team too. But that's why Sam Jackson, the 5th year, is my MVP. What do you think here? I'm leaning towards Gavin Freeman, but I think he might make another appearance here later down the list.
He may make an appearance on your side, but at least on my list, that's where I put him. I could see him in multiple places. So I had him at least on 2 places. So, but it just seemed fitting for me to put him as MVP because he was at least the most consistent across the whole entire season. At least for me, he got to at least be in every single game.
Yeah, you know what? Man, I'm going to say it's Sam Jackson just because Gavin Freeman, I know, wins an award later on in my head. So if I'm the guy who's got to determine it, I'm going to say it's Sam Jackson here. So we'll say, we'll agree to disagree. How about that?
That works. We'll probably switch the people around. I have a feeling.
Well, I feel like there's going to be a few repeats between both of us going down here. We do not know each other's answers. No, I'm going down this as well. So
we're winging it.
With all of that, offensive player of the year, Trey, who do you have?
Yes. So for me, I'm going to go with our good old, wait for it. Let me hit play for you. I'm going with Ronnie Fields Jr. He was just very consistent, at least on running. I know he didn't have the best, running offensive line, but man, did he try. He was at least being a freshman, being put into that role. I know that was not easy whatsoever for him. He did manage to carry like 124 times the whole entire season. 614 yards isn't a lot, but considering everything that he also did a lot of receiving yards too, which also kind of helped average them out. At least on receiving, he was probably a little bit better on that. He kind of gave me a little bit more of a Christian McCaffrey feel this season because that's how he's getting all of his points, is mostly throws. So he kind of felt like that a little bit, but at least for me, for a freshman, he did absolutely phenomenal. He kept the ball going. He was, one of those players that at least try to help us out in every way, shape, and form. I know it's not the best highlights, but you know what? It's what it is. And I'm very impressed. I love to see where he goes later on in his life. If he stays with OSU, great. If not, I totally understand. But he did really, really well considering everything. So that's who I have right now as my offensive player of the year.
Well, your offensive player of the year is, I can only echo it. My offensive player of the year as well is also Rodney Fields Jr.
Yay! Look at us go.
Yeah. Hey, he led the team in receiving yards. In rushing yards. In receiving yards, it was Gavin Freeman who maybe make another appearance here later on the list. How many times am I going to say that? Ronnie Fields Jr. was 4th on the team in receiving. And yeah, at the end of the day, like, he's got a receiving touchdown. He's got a rushing touchdown. His yards per attempt is 5 yards attempt. Maybe he need to get the ball a little bit more because, hey, you know what? When you go 1-11, you got a guy who's averaging half first down a play. Got to get the ball a little bit more often, I got to say. But yeah, Ronnie Fields Jr. to me is the easy offensive player of the year. I understand the other nominees out there might be Trent Howland because his yards per attempt ended up being 3.9, but he had 3 rushing touchdowns on the season. I understand the ideas of Gavin Freeman being up there as well, too. He did lead the team in receiving. But I also would get it if someone said, hey, in a season like this, when you got Zane Forge out there gutting out some games and really trying to do it all, he's the guy who was the quarterback in 9 games and he was playing, he was playing so many games out there. I get it, but no, Walter's also played in 5 games. There's just so many other things. We had Shamar Rigby play 12 games where he's got 1 completion, 1 pass attempt, and they're really trying to figure it all out. Banks Bowen, Clint Bowen, the former defense coordinator's son, an interim defense coordinator's son. There's so many different things to the season that I have to correct myself with that I want to go, hey, Ronnie Fields Jr., shout out to him. I think he's coming back, I would guess, if I'm making a prediction. But I'm not even sharing my own tab about him because I think what you've got going here, if you're watching this on YouTube, we are showing the highlights and are trying to reminisce a little bit, but we're also trying to be mindful of copyright infringement and not getting the video taken down. So you're not going to hear the audio for every single one. And that to me is part of the deal here. Ronnie Fields Jr., great player. We both have him Offensive Player of the Year. So guess what? Ronnie Fields Jr., you win the Offensive Player of the Year for the Oklahoma State Cowboy football season.
This is where we need little streamers popping out and everything.
There are little things I could hit if I was home, but I am on vacation traveling right now. Actually, not vacation. I'm traveling to see family out of state. So, you know what? Let's go ahead here and move on to Defensive Player of the Year, where I think we both might have the same guy because there's really one guy I would talk about as Defensive Player of the Year.
Just literally one guy.
Not
too
sure.
bad. Too bad there wasn't much, which is the sad thing. They didn't really have much video clips for him, but at least for me, Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going with Parker Robertson. He just was phenomenal. He was the one that kind of held up our whole entire defense, having 49 solo tackles, having a bunch of assists, got a sack, got 2 interceptions. He was very passionate on the defensive side of things. He did really well, I feel like. Granted, I know defense progressively got better throughout the year, and I'm sure his leadership, just because he was a senior, helped out with that ability. But yeah, that's at least for me, who I've selected as my Defensive Player of the Year. I know I'm boring and putting up stats, but that's all I could find. I couldn't find anything, really.
So we do not have the same defensive player. And I'm actually very happy to say we don't, because here we go, boys and girls. We've got my Defensive Player of the Year for Oklahoma State University.
For each or rush or going to
Good old Bowers.
Yeah, it's Wendell Gregory Jr. here. And if you're seeing these in the breakout highlights here from ESPN, you're seeing Wendell Gregory Jr. just eat him up in the backfield, basically. Get through without any issues. Now, this is a highlight against UT Martin, but this is the breakout game for our man here, who we can only hope really returns back to Oklahoma State this upcoming season. He's apparently entered the portal, his latest updates, but hey, you know what? Doesn't mean he can't come back. So we've seen guys in the portal and go, maybe the grass is not green anywhere else. So we'll see him come back here. I gotta say, I personally, Parker Robertson is also going to be on here a little bit later. But I gotta say, Wendell Gregory, he has so many great, you talk about stats here. Parker Robertson has the stats on the season. I'm not going to get away from that whatsoever. But Parker Robertson has 1 sack. Wendell Gregory has 4 on the season. And we're talking about a starting season here where Wendell Gregory also has 12 tackles for loss, leads the team by far and away. But the guy second on the list is Parker Robertson, I would say. Listen, he played every single game. He had 19 solo tackles, 27 combination tackles. He's listed as a linebacker here, but really had his hands in the dirt more often than not. And to me, when you talk about a defensive player of the year, you can talk about the guy who's got the heart of the year. It might be Parker. Unsung Hero of the year might be Parker. But really, to me, this is an award for Wendell Gregory Jr. Now, called for reference, you got to get the stuff together because apparently he's O-3, not 6'3", but O-3. I think he's more than 3 inches. So.
Infinitely taller.
Yeah, we've got him at 8 centimeters, 110 kilograms here. He transfers into Oklahoma State from South Carolina, but there he was a redshirt freshman and he played in 2 games, had 1 tackle. That's really all we're talking about. Oklahoma State completely flips the script. Is going to get a ton of money in the portal, either coming back to Oklahoma State out of the portal or going somewhere else and announcing, which would be unfortunate, but my defensive player of the year is Wendell Gregory Jr. The third? I forget. Is he like you? Is he a Trey? I kind of almost gloss over at this point here, but he was named as the newcomer of the year, the Deshaun Alexander freshman of the year, semifinalist for newcomer of the year. And in the season where he won 1 game, a guy that wins an award or is nominated for it, I should say, to me, that makes all the difference. So, Trey, I'm hosting the show.
Yeah.
I'm clicking all the buttons. So Wendell Gregory Jr. wins it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I see how it is.
And the next tiebreaker, I'll give you the next one here, but I'm going to give you the tiebreakers if they're not later on going to be my picks for something else later on. How about that? So
that works.
All right. Breakout Player of the Year, Trey. Who do you have? Who's your guy?
So for the Breakout Player of the Year, we've kind of talked about him already. It was something totally unexpected. Let me hopefully. Hold up. Everything's not working now. 1 second. I knew it was gonna happen eventually. Present my screen. So we kind of talked about him, but I'm going with good old Sam Jackson. He was, considering he was a wide receiver coming out of nowhere to be quarterback, was phenomenal. He was, once again, that's where I know that we talked about him earlier, but that's where I put him in my category. I gave him kind of like the breakout. I'm sure he's going to be better overall moving forward. So I'm super excited to see what's going to happen to him in the future. So I feel like this was just like kind of allowing him to kind of showcase what he can and can't do. And so I'm super excited about his future. And basically, you think he would be a great wide receiver, but hey, he's also got quarterback in him. So it's that dual threat capability for him.
The dual threat capability is definitely there. I talked about him as the MVP of the season, so I kind of want to say the season, right? When I'm going to try and there, because he was thrown into so many different obstacles throughout the season, and he wasn't truly, to me, like he was a hero of the year, but he didn't like help us win a game, right? I mean, we beat UT Martin, we beat the FCS opponent in week 1. That's kind of what happens. To me, I would say the unsung hero of the year is, of course, the man who hauls an interception against Kansas State, keeps us in the game a little bit here, and ends up being really, really good for Oklahoma State, of course. But that's Parker Robertson, who hauls an interception against Kansas State. I mean, that game has K-State fans still worried about it. And he tracks on the ball, sees it coming. Now you have a horrible pass there from Avery Johnson, just going across his body, running to the other side, the whole deal. And that's what a 5th-year former walk-on figures out, is when to pick apart the K-State team that just looks a little bit out of it. So we already gave Sam Jackson an award. I'm going to say let's go ahead and give Parker Robertson the award here and be good there, if that sounds all right to you. So
that works for me.
I'm going to go with that. Yeah,
because he should have been defensive player. No, I'm just kidding.
He could have been, should have been, but you know what? We're going to give him Breakout Player of the Year because before this year, Parker Robertson was not a household name necessarily to me, but the Unsung Hero of the Year. Who do you have, Trey?
Whoops, wrong clip. I'm just doing pro at that right now.
Well, I gotta say, you know what? I'm the LA on my hat here. If anyone's watching this on YouTube, I assume some are. That is the Los Angeles Clippers, but it's really a Los Angeles hat. So gotta fancy that. He's out there last night, cheering on Kate Cunningham in a unfortunate loss where the Pistons don't score a point for Kate, doesn't score a point in the first half. So anyways, Kate Cunningham ended up balling out the night before against the Jazz. But that's enough basketball talk for a second or two. Trey, who is your unsung hero of the year?
I'm still going to go down this field. Rodney Fields. He just was phenomenal. I said it already. I know this is a little bias of doing him twice, but you know, he just definitely, if he didn't win an award yet, he definitely should deserve it. He even threw caught an amazing pass right there. But he just was so dual. I was actually I had him in like multiple slots, so I just kind of at least gave him 2 because he was, at least for me on the offensive side, was what I kind of, once again, wasn't expecting. It was a nice little light of sunshine, which was always great for me to see.
I completely understand that, because to me, he's oh gosh, I don't even know. I mean, he's such an incredible player. He's one that I really hope comes back. We've got Caden Batman Jones transferring in from the number 1 team in the entire nation, I think, in Bixby. I mean, that's what they were ranked at least at some point this year. So I could definitely see a chance where, hey, we're both talking about it. We're both really excited. At the end of the day, you know what, Ronnie? The portal's open for all Oklahoma State players because their head coach got fired during the season. Yep. So that's how that works. I did learn that recently and want to fully explain it. But I will also say there is a chance that guys accept entries into the portal, do stuff in the portal that doesn't really make sense and line up with other thoughts and ideas. That can keep happening. To me here, I'm just going to say my unsung hero of the year is the guy who, go ahead.
I was also going to say, there was one more kind of like backup, an honorable mention. Give me 1 second while I pull that up.
Okay.
It's an honorable mention because it wasn't truly a, OSU player per se. But let me present that now. But I definitely have to say, whoops, I forget the order of operation of this presenting stuff. But I definitely can say the no shirt section that we started and created the trend for, that is also my little bit of a unsung hero. Because who would have thought our fans would get into a section and everybody focused on that one section, and you know what? They brought it. And, a lot of other colleges, started copying us, having some type of sections, especially schools that were doing awful. So that's my not unofficial request on that one. But Rodney Fields Jr. is the actual player, but the 231 section, you got to represent.
No shirty one. Yeah, I mean, there were videos made about it. This became a whole deal. This is against the Cincinnati game where, I mean, somebody we both know real well was kicking a field goal at halftime. And it's really a remarkable, fun game. It took over the season, I'd say. Eric Morris is definitely going to be friends and fans of the No Shirty One. I would expect to see maybe Josh Holiday out there next year, trying to go, hey, baseball, bring on the No Shirty One. Does baseball, does Obrey have a section that's named 231? Not yet, but
it will now.
Soon. Yep. It will now. There will be something.
It was in Gallagher-Iba. I've seen it.
Yeah, we've seen it happen. We've seen the deal come alive. Listen, your unsung hero of the year, I think, is incredible, and I like it a lot. I would say I love it, but you know what? We don't do repeats all the time here. So let me say instead here, we've got Mr. Gavin Freeman making the other appearances. I said he would.
Throwing.
Here's his touchdown.
This is Freeman. Gavin Freeman. Cut back, let's down. Oklahoma State.
I mean, what I love is that he pops up and he immediately is talking smack to the UCF defender in a close game. where UCF is trying to win the game so they can go to a bowl game, hopefully. And instead, Oklahoma State fans and everyone all around are going, not just yet. Now, they ended up, of course, winning, but we were in the game till the end. Gavin Freeman was one of those reasons why we were in that game against UCF. That would have been an incredible win for the season because we would have beat a Big 12 team. But yeah, had his heart in his season. A guy who does lead the team in receiving, gotta give a shout out to. He makes the list at some point here, and that is my unsung hero. I know I said breakout player of the year, and then I switched and said unsung hero, Parker Robertson here and there, but I want to be correct here. Breakout player of the year, that's Parker Robertson. Unsung hero of the year, that is Mr. Gavin Freeman himself, in my book, because we got to give him an award, right? We got to give it to him. So, Trey, game of the year. I think everyone sitting at home right now is going, oh, game of the year, it's got to be the one win of the season, right? Right? But are you going to prove me wrong here?
I am going to prove you wrong. I am going to go with the UCF game. This is the game that we started fully turning around and actually being very competitive. And we were leading most of it. I was thinking about either doing this or the Iowa State game, but I decided to go with the UCF game because that one was, whenever we were talking about it, that was the game that we were like, it'd be great if we were within 21 points. I remember talking to you about it. So it was one of those games that thoroughly surprised me. We did really well. Defense showed up. Offense, was there. It started kind of struggling a little bit, but, it was a lot better than I thought it was, and it started giving me hope. So that's the reason why I gave that. Yes, I could have gone easy and said the one game of the win of the year, or I could have gone the Tulsa game because, it's going to drastically change everything for Oklahoma State. But I'm going to be more positive, and this was the game that I feel like we could have won really easily, but at least this was like the first time that I truly had hope for a game. And the best part was, like, we were on the road. We were, very competitive on the road, which was kind of shocking, to be honest with you.
I think the most shocking thing about this game specifically is that not only was this game really close, it was way closer than anyone would have thought before the season started, because in 2023, when this team with completely different roster, I would say, except for Parker Robertson and some others, of course, a handful of players, went down to UCF, and there's now Ollie Gordon is talking about how that he's talking about in interviews that he's done, where the team didn't bring the right cleats, the right apparel, the right uniforms, the right stuff, basically the right equipment to play in a game that was a swamp. And when they were just sliding all over the field, didn't have the right studs for the cleats, didn't have the right uniform and equipment and stuff like that. And really, we're just walking in there, just had no idea what was going on. And then also, the UCF game that Oklahoma State played back in 2023 was like right after the Bedlam game. So you're going, hey, maybe we're going to the Big 12 championship game and winning it. And then the UCF game happens 42-3. It's horrific. No one wants to talk about it. It might have even been 45-3 because I blacked out the entire thing. And that's 2 years ago. And then this game happens and you're like, man, at least the Cowboys were close. We're up 14-0 going into halftime, right? So, there's just one of those things where, man, how do we lose that one? But then when we look back on the season, it'll make sense to everyone. It just is. Scott Frost, I think, was coaching a little bit there at the end to make sure that he kept his job a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Because year one, this team probably doesn't fire Scott Frost if they lose to Oklahoma State, but man, it doesn't look good. If you lose to Oklahoma State, a one-win team coming into the season who got blown out 69-3 against Oregon, needless to say here. My game of the year is actually, of course, the win against UT Martin. I'm extremely audio on this one, though, because we don't need it. Listen, there's a lot of things we can talk about from this game. To me, this is the game of the year because you have the starting quarterback gets named the week of the game. And to be Hosseini, he shows out. First highlight play touchdown that he has, he basically makes the defender miss by just running around him. I mean, he has an inside juke a little bit and then runs right back out. He has this terrific pass here all the way down the sideline to Terrell Davis. And I'm sitting over there looking at my dad like, hey, hang on a second. Got a guy. We have a quarterback here. This isn't Al Omen standing in the pocket like a statue, can't move. This isn't some weird quarterback, 3 guys. Maybe we'll figure it out one of these days. Who knows? Hey, it's not Zane, who we were promised was like the savior for so many times. But this highlight right here that's showing right now for the first touchdown of the game, Haas just runs around it. If you blink, you're going to miss it. The guy is one of, if not the fastest players on the team, is every single story we've heard. So far, he hasn't transferred. I will say, the earliest you can accept an entry into the transfer portal is this Friday, January 2nd, depending on when you're listening to this. So those portal entries, those rumors, those guys have committed. I'm sure it'll come in a little bit before then, and it'll all be bizarre and odd because now you've got NBA players coming back to play college basketball, so who knows what's going on. But this is one of the games that I'm looking back at like, man, this was phenomenal. This was like a joyous, hopeful occasion with, okay, maybe he's injured, maybe he's not, maybe it's, hey, let's make sure Haas is, held back for a little bit and out the game, because who knows, maybe this was a circumstantial thing where at the time, hey, you know what, we're up 14-0. Let's hold back a little bit on Haas and let's see what Zane's got. We're going to platoon guys. Maybe we'll get the third stringer in the second half, etc. Then after the game's over, it's like, oh, wait, it's got a Jones fracture. But during the game itself, hopes were high, hopes were being raised, hopes were way higher than you thought. Got this UT Martin highlight here, which I don't love, but that's their points of the game. So it's okay to me. It just isn't fantastic. And you know what? It's kind of what happens in football. It's just all these injuries. But you've got this highlight here from UT Martin where it's like, that's a fluke touchdown. The guy one hand grabs it right out of the air because it sticks him right in the glove. And then you've got, I believe here, just, Oklahoma State really allowing a lot of rushing yards from a quarterback that was only a future story that we allowed a lot more on the season. But then again, against the rushing quarterback of the year for the Big 12, at least coming in, Avery Johnson, we kept that game close. So this game's a bizarre one when you look back at it, and I'm sure we'll reference it many, many more times here, but it's a fun game to look back on. The UCF game is one that's, okay, all right, I'm okay with it. I kind of hate it. I don't know. But Trey, I'll let you decide on this one here because I truly want you to have at least a choice of which the two
I'm going to go with the UCF. I'm going to go with UCF because it was an actual opponent supposedly on our level. UT Martin, love you to death, but I couldn't place you on the map. So at least, our game with UCF, we were making a comeback. We could have been at that moment. We should have won, but I know we lost, but it was like, I was okay with that loss, actually showed that we showed up for once. Yes, this was like the UT Martin's a fun preseason. I'm going to always call it preseason game. But I'm going to go with the UCF game.
Yeah, that's fair. Because you know what? UT Martin, you should roll over. Honestly, UT Martin should be a team that you're putting up 50 against. We now know why that didn't happen exactly. But man, it's a tough deal here, I would say. I can't get over how tough of a deal that was. So I'm going to side with you here on that. All right. Well, Trey, coaching moment of the year.
So I'm gonna be cheating a little bit on this, and I'm gonna go with the Eric Morris conference. I felt so. I know it's not like on the field type of stuff, but I'm cheating a little bit. But you know what? I feel very confident after the press conference that he had. After, his family being here, going through the tunnel and just answering all the questions. And I just feel very hopeful. I know it technically wasn't this season. It's going to be for next season, but it was a very strong coaching moment and it made me feel, hopeful, excited for next season. Can't wait to see what happens on Friday. Just the pure chaos of everything. And I'm sure he's going to bring some good talent in. And I'm really hopeful because, he basically brought no-star recruits to a college and had North Texas have one of the best years that they've ever had. And, they even won their bowl game just a couple of days ago. So I'm super excited about this. I know it's not a true on-the-field moment, but you know what? It happened this year, so I'm going to count it.
All right, well, I like the idea. I like the but at the end of the day, I'm going with coaching moment of the year. So of course I'm going to pick a trick play where Josh Ford scores here against, this is a Baylor play. Got no audio, so I'm going to narrate a little bit. But basically, Zane throws back to Sam Jackson, quarterback, who throws it down the field to now the University of Alabama's Josh Ford down there, who scores against his dad's former team. It's a cool story nonetheless. And this is one of the cool coaching moments that Doug Meacham has because, you know what? We're going to run some trick plays against Baylor. Like, we just are. We're just going to figure out what works. We're not going to hamper and stay put on what doesn't work when we know what will be tough to do is put in the quarterback who wasn't supposed to be starting all of it and see how he does and see how it all works out. So, you know, I'm going to go that trick play because it's one of the first. It's the first Doug Meacham called trick play of the season. There were many more to come along later on, but that to me is the coaching moment of the year, just because it was the first one and it's a fun time. I wish I could say it was the UCF game. I wish I could say it was the Iowa State game. Can you believe we took Matt Campbell all the way down to the final couple minutes of the game and almost pulled out a game there where maybe we could have tied? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I'm going to go with that was the coaching moment of the year. I'm going to overrule it because that's the coaching moment. Eric Morris, I think, will have many coaching moments of the year in the future, but that to me is coaching moment of the year. All right, so Trey, what do you have here for? And I've changed the award name here on the fly. It's now Cowboy of the Year. So, what do you have in here? It's the Cowboy of the Year.
I'm still going to go with heart because it was very much heart. And my heart was for Zane Flores. I know he wasn't the best. I know he's been scrutinized a lot. He didn't have the best offensive line. Let's be honest there. And so I'm giving him the Cowboy / Heart, because I'm going to consider it Heart Cowboy Cowboy Heart. Just because he could have at any point this season, said, nope, I'm not playing anymore. I want to save my eligibility, or I'm saving myself for the transfer, anything like that. He did not. He was still in there. He was still leading the team. Now I know he wasn't the best on completion, but he did progressively kind of get a little bit better here and there. I know that's stretching it because like his QBR wasn't the best. Let's be honest. I know, but he didn't quit, which is what I was thoroughly surprised. I thought he may quit, just a little bit just because of everything that's been going on. And I get it. I know he's entering the transfer portal. Best of luck to him, but I know it wasn't the best season for him. He didn't have the best offensive line, but you know what? He still did really well considering everything was pretty much stacked against him. And, having no head coach after 3 games probably is kind of crazy. And I'm sure wasn't really the best, but he had great leadership from what I can tell. He still performed, even though it wasn't the best. I'm still going to give him the Cowboy of the Year / Heart or Cowboy Heart Award or whatever we're calling it now.
Well, a Cowboy of the Year or Heart of the Year, either way, Zane makes a very, very contentious #1 pick. He could, listen, Gundy gets fired. Gundy's the guy who was recruiting him, not Doug Meacham. Doug Meacham was not the offensive coordinator who recruited him either. In fact, Doug's the guy who probably brought in Haas because they both came from TCU. And I'd say it's got to be a predicament. No matter what, it's a tough season. Zane could have gone out there and gone, I'm out after a couple of games. After he gets injured, he could have sat out the entire season and said, I'm out and not played again. I'm not exactly sure what the deal is with Hosseini, if he really could have come back or not. I'm going to guess he really probably could have at the end of the day. But you know what? Let's save the 3-game series sample size on tape. Let's save our health. Let's save the injury risk as well. And you know what? Zane's deal is throwing the ball. So you want to get more reps at that. Mm-hmm. The Oregon game is one to forget about, honestly. But you know what? A lot of respect to the guy to not entering the portal right after his coach gets fired and calling it then and going, I'm out. You know what? Yep. You've seen enough. I'm out. This isn't it. A lot of respect, a lot of Heart of the Year. And to your point, Cowboy of the Year, to my point here with Zane. Listen, you won it. I'm going to tell you before I even share my guy. I'm going to say you got it because my guy here is weirdly enough, it's the other quarterback on the roster, and it's Hosseini, who has yet to hit the portal. For whatever reason, who knows? It's maybe because Drew Mestamaker has yet to finally make a decision, or to make a decision that's at least internal. Because we're seeing guys transfer out. We're seeing Zane go, hey, I know this won't be me. He hits the portal. And then again, we've also got, as I said earlier on, Wendell Gregory saying, you know what? I might hit the portal, might come back. Who knows? So we've got guys here that I would love to see more and more and more of Hosseini on the field in action if need be. But I'd also love to see a little bit more just kind of, out of Hoss. Like, I want to see him play again. I'm putting him as Cowboy of the Year because he was always on the sidelines, always there, showing up, shouting out. I've got his mom here who put a video on TikTok as his first collegiate start and first rushing touchdown. Hoss seems fully bought in. He's wearing Stillwater apparel on the sidelines. He's being a great teammate. He also did not have the portal when he could have. So a lot of the same reasons that you said for Zane, for a guy that's injured, who played 3 series the whole season. So listen, Zane's the Cowboy of the Year because of how the season went down, how he, I think, got a little bit better. But really, the guy was getting beat up so many times. I have not gone through all of the numbers to see if he was the most sacked quarterback of the Big 12 this season. But I'd be shocked if he wasn't the most sacked quarterback of the season per game, just because he didn't play every single game because he was injured. I mean, he was getting beat up. I've talked enough on Zane going, man, I don't get the deal because you know what? Sometimes you've got a guy who really shows out and is like looking like the guy in every practice. And I guess it just wasn't Zane because he never took over the starting job when there was other guys who could have challenged him. Haas comes in, challenges him, and takes the starting job. And you've got Gundy looking around, who looks smart at this point because you know what? If Gundy knew this offensive line was this offensive line, then he knew he had to play Haas. He just knew that was the option, the only challenge, the only way to go. I'm curious to see what happens with Haas in his career going forward. And I'd be excited if a guy who was a former 3 or 4 star, depending on where you're looking, guy, if he ends up being the quarterback for Oklahoma State next year. Listen, Drew Mestamaker is awesome. He led the NCAA in passing last year. I am not throwing shade on him at all, except for the fact that he was not a star. There was a 0 star. He's the walk-on player of the year because he was originally a walk-on from North Texas. So should Drew Mestamaker have been scouted better? Should he have more stars? 100%. Maybe he's 3 or 4 star at the end of the day. We don't know. But I'd love to see what Eric Moore does with a guy who's, not a walk-on. Right? Cam Ward, 0 star. All of a sudden, he's a quarterback under Eric Morris for a couple seasons, and then he's a first-round draft pick, and he's pulling out games against the Saints where he's making it close. At the end of the day, with a Titans roster that is really challenging, and he's doing a lot more with a lot less. And then, you know what? I'd love to see what he does with Hosseini. Does he, as Eric Morris coached the guy before who has this kind of speed? I mean, he had kind of run-ins, if you want to say, with Baker Mayfield. So that's the other guy who kind of embles that same kind of spirit and body, but Baker Mayfield's not running a 4.2 to 4.4 ever. So what does Hosseini look like with Eric Morris next year? And that's more my Cowboy of the Year, is that right now, today, December 29th, as we record this, Hosseini is still on the Oklahoma State team. He may hit the portal the second another quarterback comes on Oklahoma State's roster, if or when that happens. But I'm not reporting anything on that. I just want to go, listen, I think Hosseini deserves some love here this season. And that's more or less why I'm putting him as Cowboy of the Year, not because of anything else.
A little fun fact for you while you were talking, I found out we were not dead last on sacks. We were 62 on sacks. Ball State was number 1 with 49 sacks. And then poor Zane, he had 18 sacks. So, he was still up there, that's for sure. But anyway, he didn't have the most.
Are you saying the quarterback from Ball State got sacked 42 times?
49 times. And then
49 times. And Zane got sacked 18 times?
Yep. And then right behind him was the Missouri State. I believe that's Missouri State. Let me just double check. Missouri State had 48. So there's 48 and 49. We just had 18. So, hey.
You know what? I mean, that's in 9 games. I mean, I don't know what that rate is exactly.
Average,
but
right.
yeah, it's what that average is. Thank you. But yeah, it's probably not great. The guy gets sacked a bunch, only played 9 out of 12 games when, he plays in the home opener. We know that. Yep. He plays the last game of the season. We know that. So, and Zane went through just such a rough stretch here at the end of the day. I mean, we can go back and talk about it for years, and we probably will reference this season. The K-State game will still be bizarre because at the end of the day, you're looking at it. Zane was 66% completion percentage, and yet we only scored a measly 6 points in that game. Against Kansas, he's 78% throwing the ball. But man, and no interceptions, but only 2 touchdowns. Like,
it was a bunch of checkdowns, though, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the interception to touchdown ratio here for Zane Florence is not something we want to talk about. It's 3 touchdowns. It's 3 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. It's not good at all whatsoever. In fact, Oregon game, I mean, we could go all the way down here, but his best game completion percentage wise was against Kansas, where he lost 21-38. And that's one of those where I could have told you game of the year was against KU, because at least Zane was 22 of 28, 78.6% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns. But at the end of the day, he had 235 yards passing. Like, if you're 22 at 28, throwing the ball that many times, I get it that, yards per attempt and the average yards in the air, like, works out to be pretty good. Mm-hmm. But my guy, like, throwing the ball 22 times on 28 attempts, I can't get over how glaring that is. It's like a weakness. And then talking about the UT Martin game, he doesn't have a touchdown in that game passing. He has 3 rushing attempts for a total of 8 yards, because he got sacked a couple times too. So there's just a lot of things where I'm like, man, Zane at one point has -7 yards receiving against K-State, and then he has 4 yards receiving against Tulsa. There's just so many odd things about this whole season that over time, I'm sure we'll come back and talk about a little bit more. And maybe if the guy doesn't have an interception in the UCF game, we win because we drive down at the end and score the winning touchdown. But he was 46% completion rate, 124 yards passing that game. That would have been an incredible miracle to pull off that game with those stats, even though we were up 14-0 at half. So, I don't know. Trey, what will be your final thought here on this 2025 season for Oklahoma State? Who's like the player? Who's the player that you have a mental image of first and foremost?
Unfortunately, I think it's still Zane, because he is literally the embodiment of our season. He had a little bit of a high, went straight down, had a little bit of a comeback, a little bit, had a progressively got better towards the end. So that's kind of like what overall, like, it kind of perfectly illustrates it. He had like this roller coaster, and it was very much a bad roller coaster, to say the least.
For sure. To me, it'll be Parker Robertson, because that is the embodiment of a cowboy, and that's how I want to think of this season.
Yeah.
Whether that be actually a realistic deal or not is tough to tell, but it'll be basically this season for me will either be the season of Parker Robertson or be the season of Haas Amy. If Haas comes back and ends up playing incredible, it'll be, oh my gosh, man, that's what could have been if he had been healthy the whole season. That'll be the 2 ways I'll think about this.
It was, for me, I know this isn't a player, but it's ultimately the Tulsa game and then the fallout from that. It's definitely, that's this season for me. I know the players have had their, ups and downs, but that's like the first time that we had like a true breaking point under Mike Gundy. And then the fallout from there, and just trying to scramble and try to put together some type of team. So,
yeah, 100%. Well, Trey, thanks so much for joining me here doing the 2025 Oklahoma State Football Award Show.
Quite fun.
Next year, I can almost say without a shadow of a doubt, will be better, because it doesn't get much worse than a 1-win season. And with the new head coach, new players transferring in, a lot of excitement right across the program, it's got to be better next year, right?
So, has to be.
we'll be back. Oklahoma State plays basketball here tonight. You're probably listening to this after I finish editing everything here. So probably the game's already happened. But Oklahoma State plays basketball December 29th. We're recording this December 29th. We will be back next week to talk about the first Big 12 game of the season against Texas Tech and Oklahoma State's game tonight against, I think, Bethune-Cookman. I think that's how you say it. I want to say it. So, you know what, Trey? Until then, we'll catch you guys again soon. Go Pokes. Pistols firing. Pokes. And thank you so much for listening.
Hey, Cowboy fans. Today's episode is brought to you by Oakley Burklow, your go-to independent insurance agent and proud OSU alum. Oakley helps with home, auto, life, and business insurance. Working with multiple top-rated insurance companies to provide you the right coverage at the right price. Licensed in Oklahoma and Arkansas. Call 918-280-9068 or email oakley.burklow@connectmyinsurance.com. Personal service and honest advice and a fellow poke helping you protect momentum.
Yes.